So as you can see,
there's something different. Oh my
we
goodness.
have a little studio set up. We are so excited.
Yes, y'all. This has been in the works for a while, and we're just so excited that we're
Yeah.
able to do this finally because we know that like visuals are everything. We want to
Yeah.
see, like y'all want to see our faces in real
Yeah.
time. So we're excited.
Here we are. Whew. So today we are going to be doing our part 2 of Raising Tings. We did an IG live about it, but we wanted a space for everyone to be able to go to always reference back to it. And so we thought, of course, we needed to have that conversation on our podcast platforms. So today we're going to be just going more in depth about our relationships, that process, and where we are now. So.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you a question.
Okay.
Because I feel like people need to really know a little bit more about you and Enrique and how you guys started. Like, I know, but like our friends need to know.
Okay, no, that's good. So me and Enrique, we met at church, and we first explored a relationship in 2014.
Okay.
I remember because I was headed to college. So it was around like August of 2014. And we were together for 3 years. And then we broke up for 3 years. And what really led to that whole breakup and just that whole process, again, I was young, and Enrique's older than me, but he was young as well. And you know that saying, when you're young, you're dumb. And so I feel like it was a lot of immaturity on both parts. We didn't know how to healthily, that's a word.
Right, listen.
So we didn't know how to, work through disagreements healthy, the healthy way. It was just a lot of immaturity in our conversations and arguments, arguing all the time. We had really good times, but I just feel like we both feel like that just wasn't the season for us to explore that relationship. And I think that's why it just didn't work, because a lot of people, they can be young and dumb, but they can still make it work. But I just feel like that wasn't our time. And so at the time, we didn't understand that God's not now didn't mean not ever.
Yeah.
And so we were just like, all right, we're just gonna break up and like go our separate ways. And we're both believers, and I was like, if it's God, it's gonna come back and be better.
Yeah.
And this analogy that I like to use is, I love watermelon. And watermelon is at its best in the summertime. However, you can eat it in the winter, possibly fall, but it's not going to be as good as it is in the summer.
That's good.
And so I feel like we were just out of season in our relationship.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't as good as it is.
That's so good. That's so good.
And so that's kind of what happened in our relationship. And so we had a 3-year breakup. And during that time, I was going through a major transition from college into the real world. And so I just need to figure some things out for myself. And then he had a lot of changes he was going through as well. And so we came back in 2021. No.
No, you're right.
It was 2021? Yeah. Okay, because this is 2023. So we came back in 2021 in November. Enrique asked me to go to lunch. And in that conversation, he was just like, are you open to exploring a relationship? And this time it was different. Like, he came correct. Like, he had this confidence about himself. Like, I could tell that he had matured, and he could tell that I had matured. Like, our conversation was completely different. And he let me know. He was like, he asked me if I was open. I was open. He was like, well, I just want to let you know, like, I'm not going at a slow pace. Does that scare you?
Yes.
And I was like, well, okay. But I was fine with that. Like, again, we had known each other for years. We're very comfortable, but just kind of that relearning of who we were now. But I was fine with that. And so November we had the conversation, and then January I
Wow.
got engaged.
I love that.
And here's the thing: when it's a guy, it don't take long. Like it really don't have to take that long.
Suddenly got.
So you,
Mhm.
we were both single.
Yes.
Then I get engaged, and now I'm married. And then you, in that process, you, I guess, start exploring a relationship, and now you're engaged. And so I know people were wondering, I know people were wondering, like, did y'all plan this?
Yeah, like what happened?
Tati, did you feel pressure? Like, what was going through your mind when I got engaged? Did you feel pressure to enter into a relationship? Like,
that's good. That's so good. Yeah. So honestly, I did feel pressured, and I just love that that question, because I think so many times when you are really like, we were really close.
Yeah.
We were really, really close. And we talked a lot about what we desired and what we really wanted out of life.
Yeah.
And we both desired marriage. And so for me, I was like, I desire marriage, but Brie, like, now it's her time. So for me, I was just kind of in a place where I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to accept that it's Bree's time now. I'm going to be rooting for her, celebrating her, all the things like that. And then when my time comes, it comes. But of course, people love to ask questions. People love to know how you doing, how you feeling. And I just remember having a moment where I just cried. Like, I was just like, oh my goodness. Like, I didn't know how the story was going to unfold. I didn't know when anything was going to happen. But I felt like, and we talked about this, just like when it happened for you, it was just like, okay, so now that thought in my mind is like, so when am I next? Like it's just natural. So
natural thing. And if I can be honest, I remember, now that I think about it, at the time I didn't know Enrique already had my ring, but you knew, because you were just like very emotional. Like we had a lot of heart to hearts, like where we were like literally sobbing. But I knew now that you already knew that he was about to propose, and like that was just like really hard to like just carry by yourself. Like, but you did a good job at it.
Oh, thank you.
But no, it was really challenging for me once I got engaged, because the first person I thought about was, oh my God, what is Tati gonna do?
Literally,
like,
right?
What is Tati gonna do?
Normal.
And not that like you were weak and you couldn't hold your own, but it was just like we were so close, and I knew that now I had to cling towards my husband, and like life was gonna look a little different, and like we could still relate and stuff, but like I was gonna be now going through this major transitional phase, and like I just didn't know where our friendship was gonna go. Like if we were still gonna be very strong, or if we would kind of like
go our separate ways.
Our separate ways.
And I definitely felt like I had to mourn, or I had to accept that season that we were super, super close. Like when I tell you, like, spend the night all the time, just literally like on a random Saturday, just being like, what are you doing? Let's go hang out. I had to accept that season probably would not look the same in this new season. And so it was just like a thought of just like, okay, like now she's going to cling to her husband. And now like her stories and everything is going to be to her husband. And it was just like, because I think especially like in the older generation, they're kind of like, everything's going to change. Like you're not going to be close. And so
they kind of set that story up, that narrative.
So you naturally feel like you're about to lose your friend. Like I go into like this shock of like, oh my God, I'm scared. Like you go into fear mode. And then I started to protecting myself. So I started to draw back. I started to let her have her way.
And I was so like, no, but like seriously, I was so, I was going through so much already. Like just, oh my goodness, I'm about to be married. And like, me mourning what was our relationship of what was and like what it's gonna be. It was just like, oh my God, like now I go to my husband first. Like I tell him, like it was hard for me too. And I think that people will share their experience. And I think what sometimes we do in society where we will just take what they said as like, that's going to be our story. And so I think that's what both of us were doing versus just saying, okay, let's just have a conversation on like how we're going to navigate through this season.
Absolutely.
And where we want our relationship to go, or like where we don't want it to go. And then let's try our
Being
hardest
honest,
to just like make sure that we stay connected and we stay close.
Yeah.
And you were like pulling away, and I remember having a conversation, and I was like, because going through that process of like you're about to get married and all of that, sometimes it can feel lonely because you're just like, oh my God, like your whole life is about to change for the better, but it's still very scary. And I'm like, during this time, I need my best friend. Like, I don't need you to shrink back because now I'm like,
right. Like, it's
like, I need you.
Absolutely.
And so, like, I was kind of hurt, and we had a conversation. I was like, please, unless I tell you I need space, just don't be weird.
Then that was the best conversation we could have had. And I'm glad we had that conversation. It was a hard conversation, but I'm glad that we had it because it was so necessary for us to be able to navigate through different transitions. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but this one had something up her sleeve, okay?
Yes, I did.
Within months. Like, I was like, hold up, wait a minute.
But honestly, it wasn't like, oh, I'm in a relationship, let me set her up. I had already wanted you to meet your now fiance. But again, it's just how crazy God works. The first time, the timing, he didn't live here at the time. It didn't work. And I was like, well, the next time you come back home to Atlanta, I would love it if, y'all can get together. And so it just so happened that this happened in February, right after I got engaged. And then you can tell your story. But
no, that's so crazy. So I'm going to explain how this all went down because I'm like, people don't understand. So I remember it was like sometime in January. I can't remember like the date, but I remember you calling me and you were like, hey girl, and I'm hey. And you know how like, your friend, so she got something up her sleeve. So you like, hello, like what's going on? And she's like, so I have somebody that I want you to meet. And immediately I'm like, don't tell me like details of him. Like I was like, don't tell me anything. I was like, I want to be open. I want to trust God and I don't want to know too much. So I remember disclosing that to you. I was like, don't tell me too much. And I was like, but I trust you. And I was like, oh, like, because we were into Love is Blind heavily.
Yes.
And so I remember I was like, I said, I would like if you could introduce me to someone.
I remember that. And at the time, I'm like, you just be talking. Because when we were both single, I'm like, girl, I'm trying to figure out my relationship, but I got you.
Yeah, literally. I don't know. I was just like, yeah. And then I was like, and because we were so obsessed with that show, I was like, and I would love for it to be on a blind date. So fast forward to January, I remember I was like, you know what? You can orchestrate everything. You can handle everything on the back end and set me up. And so you were like, okay, here's the date. Here's the time. Here's the restaurant. And even the restaurant was like one of my favorite restaurants in Atlanta.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, and how that worked out. So of course you didn't want me to tell you anything, but I also didn't want to tell you anything because
if you know me, you know.
Prior Tati, like years ago, Tati would just, she would sabotage things. I mean, those of course aren't meant to be because of where you are now. But I just didn't want you to have any room to like mess it up. I wanted you to go in there with the most open mind, and just like see how conversation went versus like looking at physical appearance. But I think you had matured so much and you had gotten to a space where you wasn't even thinking about like
I was really like working on my inner self and the things that I struggled with in my past relationships that were failing. And so when I started to do a deep dive on myself and really take God and me and God's relationship very seriously, I wasn't willing to risk anything because I wanted God's best and I wanted what God wanted for me. So I remember saying, even in that year, God, your will, your way. That was my whole thing. Like, I was like, God, your will, your way. I'm trusting in you. And so when Bree presented this opportunity or this date to me, I was like, I was open because I was already on that path. And so I was able to accept this because old me, I would have probably been like, I don't know.
And
Self-sabotaging.
Let me just say, he actually chose a spot. So I was just like, I said, which date? I gave him like 2 dates you're available. I was like, you pick. He picked the date, which I believe is your favorite
Yes.
number. It was on.
Yes, it was on the 7th of February, which is like 7 is my favorite number because it's my birthday. So yeah.
And he picked that. And so I was like, okay, check.
Poor Calvin's, by the way, which is one of my favorite restaurants in Atlanta.
And he picked the restaurant. Like I wasn't like, oh, y'all going here at this time. It was just like, these are some options. Like we were both looking at places, and he was like, I want to go here, and I was like,
right, everything aligns, and it made me feel at peace to go because like things like that were aligning. So I was really grateful. So I remember on my way there, I was talking to BJ, and I was like, "Girl, oh my goodness, I'm scared." Like all the things that girls feel when they're about to go on a date. And so I got to the date, and I was like, I don't even know what he looks like. Like, y'all, it was a mess. But anyways, I got to the date, and when I say it was an absolutely amazing first date, one of the best first dates that I could ever have. Like, we talked for hours, literally not looking up at our phone.
What made it different from, because
like he led the conversations. He really like talked and like asked me questions and told me his standard and like his like beliefs. And like when you listen to someone, they'll tell you everything you need to know. And so for me, I'm a talker. So I tend to over dominate conversations. And I just sat there and listened. I was like, let me hear what he got to say. Like, why do you want to even be on this date with me? You know? So I kind of just like listened to him. We had dialogue that was great. One of the things that he would tell me is just like that, like his relationship with God is number one and things like that, that like aligned with everything that like I believed and I wanted. So that was like everything to me. So yeah, we were like chatting it up. I remember I had to look at my phone, and I used to have a strict bedtime. Like 9:30 was my bedtime. And so I looked at my phone and my bedtime had passed. I was like, oh, I gotta go. Like this is late. But yeah, so that was the day. And then after that, we never stopped talking. To this day, we have not stopped talking. And so yeah, like from that moment, I just was like, okay, God, you doing something. And like, I'm excited to see where it unfolds at the time.
But okay, let me ask you this. Did you feel pressured to go at a fast pace, or did you guys go at a fast pace, like in conversations? Like, you know, because I feel like they want to know, like,
absolutely.
It happened so fast, although we know it don't take God long, but like for you, your emotional and mental headspace, how are you feeling?
That's good. So I don't know if everyone, but I know some girls feel this. You know how like when you go on a date, you're like, is this my husband? So I actually try not to do that at all. I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to go in there like, is this my husband or anything like that. But I remember us just talking, and we would talk about every little thing, like really get into details. And we both talked about wanting to be married. And we also talked about like we were tired of like the dating scene and constantly just searching, you know? It's kind of like when you know, you know. And so I know for us, we were moving at our pace, you know? It wasn't a fast pace, it wasn't a slow pace, it was our pace. So we had deep conversations, we asked the right questions, we were intentional, we dated, you know what I'm saying? He was living in New York at the time and moved within less than a month. And so we were able to.
Didn't you say your man was in New York?
Oh, yes.
Because like one thing
I
they
did say
need
that.
to know about
I did say that.
You literally would say things.
Now
we're looking and we're like, you spoke that.
I did.
And so
I did. I had tweeted.
Life and death is in your tongue, because everything that you said is here. That's
very true. Very true. So in July of 2021, I tweeted, my man is in New York. I would say stuff not thinking nothing of it, but I was like, yeah, my man is in New York. And lo and behold, he was in New York. But when Bree reached out to him, he was moving back. So I know she wouldn't have locked that up or tried to push that if he was staying in New York, but he was already transitioning to move to Atlanta. So that worked and aligned. But yeah, so I remember him moving, and like, but we were just so intentional. And so, yeah, I don't think we got engaged in November of 2022. And I mean, it was like 10 months, but I don't think we moved too fast. Yeah. And I don't think we moved too slow. Like, I think we moved at our pace. And
yeah. And I've been seeing a lot on social media of those stories of people like meeting someone and then within 8 months, within a year, they are married, engaged, and have a child on the way. Like, I just feel like nowadays there's always a shift. I feel like in our parents' time, it didn't take them long. And then we went through a period where I just didn't feel like nobody's getting married. But now I feel like we're back in that season because, they say history repeats itself. I feel like we're back in that time where people are like, it don't take me long. Like, I like you. I vibe with you. God has confirmed some things. And so why do I have to wait?
Yeah.
So I don't think that there is no issue at all. Because again, it kind of is what happened for me and Enrique. Like, we knew each other years ago, but we were completely different people from when we first met, so I love it.
Yes. And I think what we keep saying is like, when it's a God thing, it's not even like,
it's not going to come in confusion.
Yeah, it's not going to come in confusion. It's not going to take long. Like, you're going to have peace with your decision. That was one of the things that made me confident in what I was doing, because I was like, I'm so peaceful. Like, every other relationship was not peaceful. And that is like when you can go to bed at night not worrying or stressing about anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just know, like, so that was my thing.
Real quick, did you say his name?
Oh, okay. So his name is Emmanuel, but he goes by Man.
Okay.
Yeah, he's real low key. So I just respect his privacy. So with everything going on last year, from you getting engaged to me being in a new relationship, we were planning a whole wedding. And I say we because I was a maid of honor.
Literally my right hand.
Literally her right hand. And literally, like, that was like my first like real experience with a wedding. And it was a process. So I want you to talk about that engagement process with our friends and let them know like how that all went to the wedding.
Man, last year it kind of just all seems like a blur, because it was just like you have this big event that you're trying to get to, and then like once that happened, life just picked up. And so everything was all about wedding, and like what I was like sharing with you and what I'll share with anyone is that it was a big like emotional journey. Like, I felt like it was an emotional journey for the 9 months, because we got married in September. Not a bad thing, but it's just like when you really grasp, like, this is about to be my forever person. Like, my life, like, just things are gonna change. And so I was just like wrapping my head around that. And also still just trying to like still date each other, but also trying to balance like other relationships. And that was a lot. But our engagement process as a whole, it was really good. We did still have some disagreements, and a few times Enrique was like, okay, like, do we need to push the date back? Like disagreements and conflict don't just stop because, oh, we engaged or, oh, we married now. No, like, I feel like that's when the enemy is gonna even go even harder. Like, okay, y'all thought I tested y'all before. Well, let's run it back. I'm really gonna show you what I can do. And so I'll never forget, we did premarital counseling. I would highly encourage any and everyone to do it pre saying I do, because it helped us so much. You think that you're getting deep with a person and you're really learning what they like, what they don't like, their behavior. But when you get into counseling and you have an outsider, asking things that may
Right.
trigger you and stuff,
Right.
like you really get to see, oh, okay. They were holding us accountable. And so I never forget doing our premarital counseling, we took like a 2 week break. And we were doing it weekly, and we took a 2 week break. Like it was just like we like
Yeah.
we were both so prideful. And man, pride will get you.
Literally.
And when it comes to relationships, someone has to be willing to just bow down. Like I'm not bow down, but like
Yeah.
bow out gracefully. Like
Yeah.
when two people are trying to get their point across and be right,
Yeah.
it's not like nothing. You're not gonna make any progress. And so I had to like relinquish my power of like, oh, I want to be right.
Yeah.
And I felt like we were just talking at each other to get our point across versus really listening to what each other was saying. And so it was just a constant, I said this and we weren't getting anywhere. So it was just like, all right, we just gonna stop. We just gonna take a pause and figure out like wherever like if we need to push the wedding back, like I don't know. And so we took a 2 week break, and during that time, I never forget, we came back and our marriage counselor, she said something. We had a couple. They've been married for years. But she said something when we came back, and she said, the best marriage consists of two great forgivers. And that's when that thing broke. Oof. It was like we working up sweat, like using so much energy when we can just come together and like we're even stronger. Like we were it's taking so much energy out of us to just want to be right.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you're right. Now what? Now what? Like you get all of that. And so when she said that, like that's kind of something that we always reference back to.
Yeah.
Like whenever we get into a disagreement, it's just like the best marriage consists of two great forgivers. So you have to relinquish that will to be right and just say, you know what? I just want us to get to a medium. You know? Like, is this a matter of life and death? No. It's not even that serious. It's just that pride. And so it was like working through all of that during that time. And it was just like life was still going on. And that's something that I was realizing. I don't think people was real. I'm like, I still got to show up for work.
Literally.
Like, right. I still have responsibilities within my church. Like, I still had to show up for everything that I committed to while also like battling emotionally and then working through conflict with my future husband at the time. And then like, oh my gosh, like we just had this big argument. Like, are we ready for it? Like, it's just like all of that juggling. So it was just a lot, if I can be completely honest. I'm glad we're on the other end of it because our wedding was absolutely beautiful. I mean, we didn't really have the stress of like having to pay for anything or anything like that. Like my dad was just like, why are you stressed? You should not be stressed. I'm like, Dad, like it's so much more about this journey than like who's gonna pay for this. Like, thank God he covered everything. But I was just like going through a lot internally. And then like people are like, you're not coming to me for advice. I'm like, y'all, I'm going through a lot. And I didn't know, like sometimes I'm the type where when I'm going through a lot mentally, I don't even know like where to start to like, start dealing with things. And so I'm like, I don't even know how to ask for help. Like I'm just trying to figure out it makes sense as to what I'm even thinking and going through and trying to process all of that. And so that was that journey.
No, I feel it.
For me. And I don't know if you can relate to any of it now that you are going through that process.
Yeah, I'm definitely in the thick of it all. Like everything that you said, I literally felt like it like overwhelmed me because I'm just like, wow, like it's so hard. It's so hard. And like weddings are beautiful. But what I've been told and constantly told is just like, that's not what makes your marriage. And so I'm just kind of like trying to get through the thick of it and just making it out.
Wait, that was good though.
Yeah.
That was good because I feel like everyone is telling you, enjoy the process. But it's like, y'all want me to enjoy the planning phases of my actual wedding. But like you just said, that wedding day doesn't make the marriage. It's a beautiful experience. And so I'm like, I'm trying to work through everything that's really gonna like
literally
help our marriage.
That part. No, yeah. And that's so right where I'm at, you know, because everybody's like, oh, we gotta do this, we gotta do it. I'm just like, I'm so overwhelmed with it all. And when I'm overwhelmed, I shut down. Like I shut down. I want to exit the building. Like I don't want no one to talk to me. And but yes, so I feel like you ran so I could walk. And yeah, it's been a hard journey. And like, I mean, everybody's journey is different. But I appreciate all of the advice and the times that I can just vent and like call you and things like that, because it is no joke. It is definitely everything that you said and more.
But God is so amazing because I feel like he really set our relationship up. Like even from high school when it was just very surface, but he still planted that seed that grew in college. And now it's like evolved. A full tree that is like
evolved.
Yeah, it has evolved and it's still evolving and blossoming and flourishing. So it's just like we've been going through transitional seasons simultaneously. And it's so beautiful to have someone to go through that with. And I remember during our single season when we were just always having conversations, and one of our conversations, it was just like, what happens if one of us gets married? Like, you know, because we were just like, and I was like, you know what? I'm just so confident in my God that I feel like it's going to be one of those situations where one of us gets into a relationship and the next one is going to happen. Like, I was like, it just needs, one of us just has to jump start it. And then it's going to be like, you know, fire.
A domino effect.
Yeah, a domino effect. And so that's exactly what happened. It jump started me and then it hit you. And so I'm so thankful to be able to have you to go through this with. I think someone had asked a question, just talking about what sustained us during the waiting process. And I know for me, it was having you. Absolutely. Like having you by my side throughout the entire process and even the pre-process, because I think you could appreciate my journey or that day because you knew everything that I went through leading up to then. And so that's something that just honestly helped me throughout this process. You were like a safe haven. And so,
no, that's
something.
That is so true. That's definitely one of the things that like sustained us for sure, because oh my goodness, like so many times of just like needing someone to just vent and have like that safe haven, that safe place. Like it is so necessary.
And also having someone to hold you accountable, but that you trust. That you trust. And you know that they're not telling you anything that's going to hurt you. Because there were a lot of times that we would hold each other accountable and tell each other things that we did not want to hear. But we had to lose our pride and be like, they're right. Like they know me, they're right. And so that's also, I was just like, I know Tati, like she gonna correct me, she gonna love me, and she's gonna give me great advice. And so
that was like the best part of it all.
Now we're here. We got our rings, and our story is continuing to evolve.
I'm so happy.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that conversation was so good. It was so needed. Like our journey within this past year went by so fast, and be able to reflect over everything that we went through, was healing.
Thank you, friends, so much for sticking around. This was a really good episode. And if you want to continue to hear more about our journey and our life and our sisterhood,
follow us on evolve.ish on Instagram, on TikTok, and on YouTube now. Oh goodness, so excited. Until next time.